Today's actually pretty nice, but it was probably in the 40s,
Oh
high
wow.
40s last week.
Yeah. That shuts people down in Southern California.
Yeah, we don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm still adjusting. I was gonna go for a run in a little while. It's rainy and like high 40s, and I'm like people just put on jackets and Gore-Tex pants and go for a run. It's
Yeah, yeah. I was at the gym. It's funny how I was at the gym a couple days ago, and
mhm.
it was raining out, and it was an empty parking lot.
Yeah. I know when I first moved there, I almost ran into somebody walking out of Costco because it was drizzling out, like just a light drizzle, and everybody was stopped underneath the overhang. Like, what do I do? And I was like, started to walk forward into people. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. Where did you grow up? Are you from
I'm from
California?
New York, like
Oh,
Syracuse area, so definitely cold, long, dark winters.
yeah,
Yeah. So it was, everywhere has its own sense of what's okay, what's normal.
right.
Yeah. So how are you doing? You feel your energy feels good. It feels a lot lighter. Like there's some forward movement. What are you experiencing?
Yeah, no. Well, I'm in my car right now. Today was kind of nuts. I'm kind of all over the place right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, energy wise, I've been feeling pretty good. Um, I think what's helped a lot since our
Hmm.
last call is just that realization that because we talked a lot about how I'm comparing myself to the best of this and that,
Yes, yes.
and I've spent a lot of time thinking about that and kind of feeling
Good.
into that and um, thinking about things I have accomplished
Mm-hmm.
and trying not to compare that to
The
the
elite.
best of the best of
Yeah.
yeah we and that's actually started helping.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I think it's I mean it's a process because
Sure, of
it's a
course,
whole
of
life
course.
I've been doing that, but um, giving myself some credit for
Mm-hmm.
certain things that I've done relative to maybe more of a normal
Scale. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that alone has made me feel better going
Beautiful.
through this
Yeah, I can feel
process.
there's more acceptance going on inside of you right now that feels
Yeah.
really good. Like you're
Mhm.
being much kinder to yourself
Yeah.
and really much more realistic with yourself.
Right.
That like it's funny. I just keep picturing you like just. I think a good exercise for you would be to go to top level professional sporting events and start yelling at players that they suck.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? You watch fans do that. You suck. Like, really? Like, the guys on the bench don't suck.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I like it's so deep inside of me, like this tendency to do that.
Hmm.
Um, that I follow the NBA pretty close,
Right.
and when in the past, and not even I mean up until recently, like if I was watching a game,
Hmm.
I'd be watching these guys, and part of me, really makes no sense because I'm not a basketball player, I'm a volleyball
Right.
player, but I'm coordinated. I mean, I can play basketball, but I'll be
Sure.
watching them and kind of in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I could get around that guy. I could,
Yeah. Yeah.
that shot wasn't that great. I don't know why I have those thoughts, but they kind of pop into my head.
Yeah. Well.
And over the past week, it's really
Mhm.
weird because over the
Mhm.
past week, because I'm not comparing myself to
Yeah.
like this fighting need to be the best at this or that,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like
Hmm.
me comparing myself to an NBA player is ridiculous.
Right.
There's part of me that sort of does that,
Sure. You've been conditioned to. Like, that's what you grew up with.
right? And but I haven't
Mhm.
done that for the
Mhm.
past week. And I remember
That's
watching a
awesome.
game just a couple days ago,
Hmm.
and for the first time in a very, very long time, I enjoyed the game because I was appreciating the talents they had
That's
and
awesome.
being okay that I wasn't on the court or something. It was this weird kind of
Yeah. No, and it's not weird. It's conditioning.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like these guys are great at what they do,
Hmm.
and I can enjoy watching that without having this weird sense of I need to be on the court playing and make it. I don't know why I do that, but it felt better to just enjoy a game without this
Yeah, yeah,
comparison thing happening.
yeah. Well, you broke an old paradigm. The old
Yeah,
paradigm was that it was about competition, about winning over versus appreciating people's talent. You know,
right.
and it's almost like um, and I totally get that. You know, coming from an athletic background, even at a lower level, like that was like even now I'll find myself like going to my daughter's basketball games, and it's something really fun happened. Is like somebody on the other team had like an awesome move or great shot or something. I was like, oh yeah, like that was awesome. I'm like, I just cheered for the other team. Like it wasn't a sense of like, go kill them. You know, like yes, that competitive is there, but like appreciating like, wow, damn, that was good. It brings a whole bunch more joy to life and a bunch more it's not, yes, it's about thriving, doing your best, but also appreciating somebody else that is as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a comfort. So
Mhm.
that to me that feels so huge. Like I think it unknowingly seeps into all areas too, because there's always when that's ingrained in us and it's taught from a young age, it becomes kind of what's the word? It like seeps into our psyche in work or in whatever. It's um, and so to loosen up on that and just start to enjoy more and appreciate what you're doing, like playing or engaging for from the place where you're at and enjoying it rather than that comparison. And it's the energy is so alive in Southern California too. It's interesting watching my younger daughter after we moved here. Like she's just so much more relaxed in herself, and she's showing up much more just in her own joy, as opposed to tracking everything that she does and says to see if it's going to be received in a positive way. Um,
Right.
because there's a real energetic response or even non-energetic, just direct response that handcuffs us a lot and puts us in that place of how do I next level to show up in a way that people are going to appreciate that. And
Right.
generally they don't. Like there isn't really a win in that game.
Mhm.
The only win is not playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, that feels like a huge celebration. Have you allowed yourself to celebrate that a little bit and smile about it?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, I've just been every day. I'll kind of catch myself um, doing something or
Mm-hmm.
thinking something, and then something else actually that you had said last time was I think you made the comment, I didn't really fall into this, but sometimes I do fall into this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the idea of I, I do it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is the idea of I can't remember how you said it, but it's almost like being humble enough to be willing to learn something
Yeah, yeah.
or not.
Being
Geez, I,
comfortable in the novice. That
yeah, it was something like that. Yep.
hmm yeah, that we don't have to step
And
into expert right away. That we can like enjoy and appreciate, like hold our expertise here and work on our fringes. Be able to invite in new ways of being, knowing that we already have this stable foundation and so much achieved,
yeah,
that it makes it safe to be a novice in something new.
exactly. And so I've been working on that also. It's just a handful of just little things here and there,
Hmm.
just things where sometimes I might think in my head like I might pretend like I'm better at something
Right.
than I actually am
Hmm.
because I want to make myself feel better or something. I don't know. I don't know why I do it, but
Yeah. Well, it's,
I do occasionally get wrapped up in that sometimes
of
and kind of
course.
letting go of that and being okay with, like you're saying, the novice.
Hmm. Yeah, like you can't start as an expert no matter what. Yet people are so trained that they're not supposed to be a novice. It's uh, you know it's funny, and yet some people over rely on it. Did I tell you that story about the sales guy um, that he was like he started out and he was actually a trainer that I had, and he was like, my first year uh, in sales, like every call I went on, I'd be like, please bear with me. I'm new to this. Like I really have a lot of information, but I want to make sure that it's exact. So I'm going to move a little bit slower. And he would enlist the potential customer in his newness and his like slower pace and the intention of being thorough, and they would want to help him. And all of a sudden they're on the same page, as opposed to like, I'm the expert and we're going to battle back and forth because now we're like, I'm trying to make you buy something and you're trying to not buy it. Like it diffused that whole piece. And they were helping him work through it. And then they wanted to support him. So he would like have these killer sales numbers. And he's like about 8 months into it. My other salespeople and my boss was finally like, look, you can't keep milking this novice thing. You know, it's you're no longer a beginner. And he's like, I milked it for as long as I could because I was killing it with it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, I think most of us would be kind of embarrassed to milk it like that. Like he was shameless in it. And there's a certain level of truth in it. Like if we can just go in like, you know, this is new to me. I'm really excited about learning it. Like, and, you know, have you ever watched the Undercover Boss shows too?
I've seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes a long time ago. Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing. It's like these high level CEO guys, you know, or owners of the company that go in and try to do the foundation level jobs as an undercover, and they almost always fail miserably at it. You know? And it's, you know, it's just a different way of being, a different way of thinking, and they're incomplete novice. And some of them like can't quite handle it, and others are just like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like it really brings an appreciation for that. And I don't know, like it's like when we can relax into life that way and let it not mean anything other than that it's something that's new to us, or we have strengths in these areas and these areas are not as strong to us. Like there's a beautiful freedom in that. That lets us be outside of that self-judgment and that internal critic.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. And so, how is that translated into relationships?
Um, hmm. Well, it hasn't been that long that I've been doing this,
Sure.
but I feel like I'm a little more forgiving of other people also,
Right.
because
Sure.
obviously I'm not the only one that does this. I mean, I think all of us do it
Yeah.
to some degree,
Of
but
course.
just trying to, like with my kids or even my wife, just being a
Hmm.
little more patient,
Hmm.
trying to be more patient.
Yeah.
Um, I know my daughter, my oldest daughter, actually both of my older daughters, they both do the same thing. And
Sure. Yeah.
so I'm trying to, I get where their mind is going.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to explain this to them,
Right.
like, to at some point, but I'm at least a little more patient with seeing how they're kind of being like me in a way with certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And there's a huge cultural component to it too.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of unsafe to act like you don't know, or to reveal that you don't know what's going on. Um, and it's and so, you know, it's funny, like I've seen it so much in work environments too. Everybody's running around and nobody quite knows what's going on, but they're all afraid to admit it. You know, and so everybody's just like trying to hide their perceived incompetence because they're, you know, because nobody quite knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm sure you're well aware of this, the whole idea of committee, uh, planning by committee and
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
businesses do. And I mean, the school is, I mean, like a master class in doing that all the time. It's
yes,
kind of
yeah.
ridiculous. I mean, there's meetings. I'm not in there hardly at all at this point, but for years, I mean, I would go into a meeting and it would be a marketing specific kind of a meeting.
Hmm.
And for some reason, 10 other people were invited to the meeting.
Hmm.
And it was always a committee approach to everything. And so
Yeah.
you'd have the head of accounting would be in
Hmm.
there,
Yeah.
who is asked a question about marketing.
Hmm.
Like, Angie, let's what do you think we should do here? And you can see on her face, it's kind of like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about marketing, but I'm going to look like an idiot if I don't say something.
Yeah.
So she feels obligated to say
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
And
then
pretend that
because
she's
she
in the
has,
know.
yeah, and because she has kind of a leadership sort of position,
Yeah.
for some reason they take what she says and think it's a great idea, even though the marketing people that are there are just going, "Yikes! Oh, okay." But
Yeah,
then they have to run with it. It's
because the
such
hierarchy. Yeah,
a weird psychological thing that people in businesses do. Like I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
really get it, but it's so common.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's what's makes creates so much struggle in most businesses. You know, is that um, yeah, like it's hilarious. I remember when I was teaching. We as teachers, we at this alternative school I was at, we were really responsible for all kinds of tasks. It was like we were administrators. We were, we handled everything. Like discipline was handled by the teacher. Even like suspensions and stuff like that. Like everything was committees. And I'd said at a meeting once, I'm like, so it's crazy. Like as teachers, the task list that we have that we say is what we're supposed to do. Like there's no possible way we could be doing it. And since we're all sitting here in this room pretending we're doing it, I'm not doing it. I know you guys aren't doing it. Like, so why don't we just get intentional about what it is we're supposed to be doing and stop adding all this other peripheral stuff that's not that important? Because otherwise, like a third of our stuff doesn't get done, and we're all sitting here pretending we're doing it. We're not doing it. And everybody was just like, why did he say that? Like, moving on, next topic.
And then yeah, and then you bring it up, and it's like you're the most negative person or something,
Yeah,
even though
like,
you're bringing up something everyone does agree with.
yeah, what an asshole.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And so like I think allowing it to be something that's humorous, it's just plain silly. Like really we're like all these incredible minds sitting here operating out of the places, like pretending to be experts in areas where we aren't incredible minds, and instead of letting each person really have their level of expertise in the area, and trusting that, and being comfortable enough in ourselves to embrace it's just part of the human dilemma, which
yeah.
is it's kind of like when you look at it from a zoomed out place, it looks like a big joke, like it looks ridiculous, but
Hmm.
embedded in it, like there's no other option. We just keep moving along and pretending. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. So congratulations for breaking out of that quite a bit, because it's and I don't think you ever had the ability to be stuck in it, but you did get to suffer in it a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, until we were talking, I just hadn't thought about it that
Y-
much. It wasn't,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was kind of subconsciously there. I could feel
Yeah.
it a little bit, but like you put words around it. I was like, oh,
Right.
okay. You know what? That's what I'm doing all the time. And that it was nice to have some structure around what I'm feeling.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, well, I'm super excited for you because that in and of itself, like, I mean, there's been a few key pieces we've worked with like that, where it's just like new paradigm of self, beautiful, beautiful. Well, that feels great. So how has work itself been going now then? And the idea of, I know last week we were toying with, like potential ideas you have, and there's something that's always running through you is these possibilities of different things you could do, different things that you could put together. How has that been? Or have you been more involved in work, and so that's been a little bit more backburnered? Or?
Yeah, it's been a little more back burner.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, that's still my biggest frustration. Like it's the thing that's on my mind probably more than anything is
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do next? I mean, I still
Yeah.
haven't really figured that out. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Right now I'm just kind of trying to enjoy some of these new realizations and
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of new ways of thinking. I figure, that will lead to something. I don't know what,
Absolutely.
but it'll help
Absolutely.
kind of steer me towards something. I don't
Yeah, because
know
it's
what
about
that
becoming more and more authentic with self.
right.
And as you do that, like it becomes more and more clear, more and more obvious where you want to put your energy.
Mm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Nice. And so has navigating work been easier then? Is that something that you're feeling more like or like one of two things tends to happen once we start to get more clear. It's like work becomes or either more of a hard no, like our initial or existing work, or we find ways to navigate it that makes it feel like a little more sustainable, even if it's just like I could do this for another 6 months or 9 months. How has that experience been, or has that just been just taking it all in?
So I haven't been back to we just call it the business office for the
Hmm.
school. I haven't physically been over there for probably a month
Nice.
until um, Tuesday. I think
Okay.
it was Tuesday. I had to go over there to help someone with something,
Hmm.
and like I walked in, and it felt so weird walking in there because that place, just the space, just the physical space and the
Hmm.
energy there has been so negative for me for so long,
Yeah.
and it still was. Like I
Right.
walked in, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I walked down the hallway and I saw a couple people and said hi, and
Hmm.
it was a little weird because no, most people don't know why I'm not physically there that much. They know
Right.
I'm working on certain projects, but they don't
Hmm.
know how things went down, or they don't know
Sure.
anything about that.
Sure.
And so it's like, oh wow, Russ, you're alive! Like all your comments people are gonna make.
Yeah.
And then I go around the corner, and John,
Hmm.
who's really been kind of the architect behind trying to push me away,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's sitting on the floor decorating for Christmas at his office. And there's probably like this 50-foot hallway that I have to walk down to get to where I'm going because for the reason I'm there,
Yeah.
and which involves walking directly towards John for that whole 50 feet.
How perfect.
And I'm walking down there, and he looks up and kind of looks to the side and sees me. I've never seen him look so uncomfortable
Yeah.
and nervous and just like, why are you here? I mean, it was just
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah. Because not only
And
were you having to deal with walking that 50 feet, he was having to deal with you walking that 50 feet. Yeah.
right. And so I get closer to him and I just said, hey,
Right.
and went left and went on my way. All he just kind of, it's funny, he just sort of grunted like, and looked back down at the ground. And I was like, man, again, it just sort of confirmed like this guy really has had a huge part in this and
Yeah.
he cannot stand having me there. Um, and that was it. But it just made me realize I don't want anything to do with being in that office.
No.
But
No.
John's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like he is cemented there for as long as he wants to be there because
Yeah.
of how he's played his cards and stuff.
Hmm.
I can't be in an office with him. Like that
Yeah.
that just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was just,
That's great.
this isn't where you
Hmm.
should be or need to
Yeah.
be or
It's
want to be
suffering.
or anything,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know where I'm going, but
Right.
I
That kind of clarity,
definitely
you
don't
stop
want
trying
to
to
be
get back
there.
in the castle.
Right. Like that is not where I want to be.
That's beautiful.
So I mean that was, and I already kind of knew that, but just seeing him there and
Yeah, it
just the
was
action, I was
concrete.
like, ah,
Yeah.
this isn't
And
my place.
so did you, as you were walking down the hall, and it's funny, it's almost like a scene from a movie or a book or something, like even the logistics, like you're standing, this big tall guy, he's sitting on the floor, engaging in a rather kind of nonsensical type activity.
Right.
Like literally, like if God or the universe was writing this script, like for you to be towering over him and him like this little man sitting on the floor. Um, how did that feel? Was there a sense of personal power in it? Was there a sense of just discomfort, or what was?
That was literally one of the things that I thought about,
Yeah,
like just sort of the symbolic. It was really
yeah,
funny. Like as
yeah, yeah.
uncomfortable as it was, he really looked kind of ridiculous, sitting Indian style on the ground, putting up frilly things on his door. And
Synchronicity.
I think he probably, that crossed his mind.
Oh,
I
I
can't
know it
imagine
did.
he
Yeah,
would have.
yeah.
I don't know. It was just sort of this funny symbolic,
And he's
like,
he's be, he's been small, right? Like it's showing you like this is a small person.
yeah,
The way that he shows up in the world is small. Like it's about undercutting other people, taking them down to the knees, as opposed to rising up and engaging with people in full
right.
stature. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, I don't know. I mean, in a way, it kind of felt good. It was like, you know what? I've got plenty of faults and a lot of room to grow, but I feel like I'm slowly getting there and I'm
Yeah.
rising a little bit. And he's on the ground pasting snowflakes on his door. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. At least you didn't say, "Oh, geez, I'm glad I saw you down there. I almost stepped on you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I did. It really did hit me. Like especially this building is
Mhm.
just not my place. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
welcome there. He
Mhm.
didn't help anything. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's an energy I don't want to be around.
Absolutely. It doesn't allow you to thrive.
Right.
Yeah, and it's that monkey in the apple trap. It's like, well, it creates this, but it costs this.
Mhm.
And it, like anything, it's like at a certain point, the cost ends up like the benefit doesn't even compare in any way because the cost is so high.
Right.
And so I think that's what you're approaching, and that level of clarity is what we need quite often before we're ready to step outside of that suffering, because there's been a very big suffering um, to that, the cost of staying there in that. And so when that becomes so disproportionate that there's just no way it's going to happen moving forward, um, it can be scary, but it can also create this incredible freedom of exploration now, like, okay, well, this is exciting, like I've and really taking inventory of your skill set, taking inventory of, what are other things that I really enjoy doing, that I'm really good at.
Mhm.
And because your scale has been so um, disproportionate to kind of the normal scale that people operate from, and bring that back into place, you can start to see, where am I head and shoulders above other people, and that's a lot of places, right? There's the literal reality of it, and then there's also the places where your expertise really show up. And so, embracing that, and then being like, where do I want to plug these in? Where do I want to plug in the pieces that light me up?
Mhm.
Because it's been a long time, and I don't think that, as much as you're intellectually are understanding, I don't think that it's really sank in yet, like the cost, like the idea of depression, like that there is a really clear, direct connection between being under the thumb of others and feeling depressed,
Right.
and that lack of freedom, because it's you never, no matter how good you do, there's always a weight on top of you. um, and when we take that off, it's like even if you're running a much smaller business, that's like, it's about engaging in the successes, and finding the place where, like, you are making a difference in the world, and you watch the things around you change. Because I think that's probably been your biggest challenge, is no matter how much energy you put into it, like, so you're trying to push a train down the tracks, like, it doesn't matter what you do.
Mhm.
And you're somebody that's all about results, and so to be trapped in a situation where it doesn't matter how much effort I put into it, like, the train's not going to move because there's a whole bunch of other people pushing the other way.
Right.
And so what is that going to feel like when you can engage in something and watch change happen, watch your influence, your exertion create a positive experience,
Mhm.
because that it just doesn't happen there. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yep.
Um, and I don't think we can ever know how big of a toll that takes on us until we're outside of it, because you are about results. Like, I mean, that's you've been programmed to focus on results, and that's great. But when you're trapped in a place where the results are not available, it's excruciating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's My father-in-law has been out of town since before Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
Um, he'll be back the 22nd or something.
Hmm.
But he's been physically like far, far away.
Yeah.
And Chad, I just haven't been in the office.
Yeah.
And so those two people who are usually just these presences
Hmm.
that I always feel like I'm under
Yeah.
haven't been like right next to me
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
month. And I feel like I've been able to, like you're saying, like they've been a weight. I feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
rising, like just my
Yeah.
own self-worth and confidence is
Yeah.
it's very slowly, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's been rising a little bit.
Absolutely.
Um, I coach my son's club volleyball team right now. He's
Nice.
12. And even, it's funny, just even interacting with parents and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, I've noticed a difference between about 2 months ago when we started
Mm-hmm.
and now.
Yeah.
Just the way I'm approaching the team, the way I
Mm-hmm.
talk to them, um, has changed.
That's beautiful.
And I feel like it's because part of that weight is off, and so I
Yeah.
can
Mm-hmm.
stand a little bit on my own 2 feet,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is nice. Because actually, something else I was just thinking about. Growing up, I was I played volleyball with my
Mm-hmm.
dad most of the time.
Yeah.
He's a really good volleyball player,
Mm-hmm.
and so I compared to I would say a lot of the people I knew that played
Mm-hmm.
sports with
Mm-hmm.
people their age,
Yeah.
more often than not, I was playing volleyball with my dad and his friends,
Mm-hmm.
who are, I mean, 20, 30 years older than me, 15
Sure.
to
Sure.
30 years older than me. And so that was all, I always felt like I was just a little kid, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how old I got,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the people I was around all the time playing volleyball with were a lot older than me. And they were
Yeah.
all my dad's age or a little younger, a little older,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention that last time. I didn't really think about it, but I've always had this sort of weird feeling like I'm younger than I am in
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I was just now thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just my dad,
Mm-hmm.
not just my father-in-law and
Mm-hmm.
brother-in-law. Feeling like I'm lesser or lower or whatever, but I always felt that way growing up because
Mm-hmm.
every
Yeah.
time I played volleyball, um, I was always around guys a lot older than me. I
Yeah.
literally was the little kid in the room, no matter what, like
Yeah. You're
most of
never
the
the
time.
authority.
Right. And so it's been really hard for me to rise up. And even in situations where I'm older than the people I'm around,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll still feel like I'm younger sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, this is all just kind of coming out right now. Um,
Yeah.
like I'll be around, there was some situation last week. What was it? I don't know. There's I was somewhere with
Mm-hmm.
some group of people talking about something or doing something, and I was probably 10 years older than
Mm-hmm.
almost everyone else there.
Yeah.
But because I've grown up always mentally just sort of
Mm-hmm.
thinking and
Being the apprentice.
exactly, I was sort of caving into things they were saying, even though I could have stepped up and been more
Mm-hmm.
of a leader role.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm older, I'm more experienced in the stuff we are talking about.
Yeah.
I just sort of default to this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the background player guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the young one or something,
Yeah.
which could be awkward to other people. I've never really thought about that. I don't know if that crosses other people's minds, but for me, it's definitely something that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just, I'm 42 years old now. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little kid anymore.
Right.
There's
Right.
times where I feel like I'm a little kid still
Yeah.
because for so much of my life I was either treated that way or I physically was the little kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't had a lot of chances to really be my own man in a way,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. No, I can really relate to that. It's something that's really shifted for me in the last, you know, 4 years, really. That I'm 48 now. And the last 4 years that really shifted for me. I like it. And I think part of it too is that when we're stuck in apprentice mode, it's like we become a tool for the people around us.
Right.
And we're used to them utilizing us in a way that makes us feel appreciated sometimes. But we also know that we're givers.
Mm,
And so it doesn't occur to us until it's blatantly obvious that we might actually be best serving by stepping to a place of authority, stepping to a place of leadership, and actually using our other skills beyond just being of service to the people around us, but being of service by leading.
Right.
And that's really like when that clicked inside of me, I was like, holy shit, like I see myself as a tool. Like I literally go like, how can I be a tool here? And I look for somebody to basically use me as a tool, because that's how I would feel like I was engaged.
Mhm.
And like it took away like 2/3 of what I have to offer. And I think that's absolutely true for you as well. That
Yeah.
like 2/3 of what you have to offer the world is still packaged, because you're plugging in everywhere of like, okay, how can you use me? Rather than, okay, let me organize this. Let me step forward as this authority that is gonna, like, I have this expertise that I'm just leaving dormant, that I've been building over the years, because I'm so busy being the tool for everybody else to use. And people love it, right? Because they're like, oh my god, like I got this like killer like tool I can just plug in, and whatever I want I can have them do it, and I get the results. you know
Right.
um so how does that sit for you when you think about plugging that into your life of showing up as the tool as rather than the authority?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I've done forever. I mean,
Hmm.
there's moments where
Sure.
the leader comes out.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's not consistent. It's not
Hmm. It's not the role
definitely.
you see. It may default to leader. Like, if somebody else isn't taking charge, it may hit a point where like, oh, it's time for me to step up.
Mm,
Or there may be certain areas where you're like, okay, this is where I got to do it, but like your default is tool, and if that doesn't get filled, then like stage two is oh, okay, well, I'll step up now.
there was a book that I read that Guy and Elon told me about. I can't. There's been so many books. I'm trying to remember which one it was. But part of what it talked about, and you might have read this, part of what it talked about was how one of the things that people tend to do is uh, not let their light shine
Hmm.
because they don't want to outshine someone
Yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah,
And I've done that so many
yeah.
times. I see
Throwing
my son
shadows.
doing that.
Yeah.
Um, he has a lot of talents, but there's just sort of a meekness sort of about him
Yeah.
where he doesn't want to, if he's playing basketball or
Hmm.
something, he could totally steal a ball from someone. Like
Yeah.
he could do that. But he doesn't want to step on the guy, not literally, but
Yeah.
he doesn't want to step on someone else's toes. Like he doesn't want
Hmm.
to make that person look bad because he stole the ball from him or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like an
And
empathic shared responsibility
yeah,
for other
yep.
people.
And there's times where I feel like I do that. Like
Hmm.
I could step up. Part of me looks at it as, oh, I don't want to brag. Not that that's
Hmm.
even bragging, because the
Yeah.
funny thing is, time the times where I will step up,
Hmm.
more often than not, it almost seems like people appreciate that I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in,
Because you.
in the
Yeah.
but in the moment, I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to make that person look bad, or I
Yeah.
don't want to do this because someone's going to feel something. It's all kind of this nebulous, like I don't even know what, but
Hmm.
and maybe someone would get offended or not like it, and so
And that's okay too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
And
I've always done that. Like my whole life, I've been kind of that way.
yeah.
And I guess maybe it is kind of the empathic side that you're
Hmm.
talking about that kind of dominates a little bit.
Yeah. And this world's full of bad leaders too, that people default to because they're the ones that are hungry for the power. And when you're not hungry for the power, but you're trying to be of service, you're trying to lift people around you, we often end up doing it in ways that aren't really serving to the highest, because we're letting the power hungry lead when they're really serving their ego, not serving the people they're leading.
Mm,
And that's just, I think it's a paradigm that's cracking really hard right now worldwide. Is that there's people stepping up that are leading out of duty rather than leading out of egoic desire.
right.
And that's, I mean, that piece, like, um once we like when the motivation is leading out of duty, there's another piece that really happens with like, wow, I feel really powerful, I feel really good about myself, like I feel like I'm in my new wheelhouse, like it feels fantastic. And then you'll see like there's such a contrast between the leader who's leading because they care about people and they care about results and they're feeling great in it, versus the leader who's like just trying to keep themselves in that position because they're trying to live into an image that's that they, you know, they're the house of cards, that they don't really have the foundation. And when they fall a long ways, you know. And those of us that have the foundation right there, if we fall, you know, like we don't really fall, you know, we just drop a little bit and get back up. There's no massive setback.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's going through this whole process over the, you know, with you and Guy and Elon, kind of this, I keep having these, I don't know, it's almost like feeling glimpses of what I could become.
Yeah.
And
Or I
it's
think what you
really
are
fuzzy.
becoming, you're
Yeah.
seeing the next levels of it because you've changed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fuzzy. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
say it's more of a feeling. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's something there. I feel something.
Yeah.
I just, I guess it goes back to what we talked about a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago. I can't visualize it,
Yeah.
and I'm hesitant to think of a very specific situation
Mm-hmm.
because, well, is that really what I want to do? Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
could visualize, I could create a world of this over here, but
Yeah.
is that really where I want to go? Like, if I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
change,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you know what? That's I think my biggest worry or concern or whatever right now
Mm-hmm.
is it taking this change. I don't want to apply it to something that I'm not going to be happy with,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or I want to, if I'm going to use all this change and different new way of thinking and feeling all this, I'd like to apply it towards something that will have an impact and allow
Yeah.
me to spread my wings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably my biggest fear, I guess, is
Yeah.
do I take all this, like
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff that I've been doing, I don't want to apply it towards the wrong thing or
Yeah.
towards something that's just going to lead me, you know, a couple years down the road and go, geez, why am I here in this position?
Yeah.
I could have applied it towards something else. I
Yeah.
just have no idea what any of that is right now. And that's,
Yeah. And so here's my thinking on it is, my thing is almost the opposite. Like, I hope whatever you create, you outgrow in 2 years. I hope that whatever you put your energy into that feels really right for you right now is going to be something that feels small to you in 2 years, and there's going to be a whole nother level of you that shows up fulfilled. And I think that, you know, that may be like, well, that sucks. Like, I don't want to build something that isn't going to be sustainable and moving forward. And it doesn't mean that it can't still feed you. It doesn't mean that it's not a business that you're going to turn over and let somebody else run and you're doing something else. But what it does mean is that when you're on a trajectory of growth, that whatever's going to match you now isn't going to match you in 6 months or a year or a year and a half or 2 years. And things around you can grow with you. So it doesn't mean like, oh, things are going to fall apart here and fall apart there. But what it does mean is that embracing where you're at, creating from that place, and also knowing that your growth is like that's what makes life exciting. That's what makes life, you know, worth living, really. And the training has been like, okay, how do I create a foundation and settle back into it? Right now, there's this safe fortress that I'm in, and that's part of the trap, right? That's part of the monkey and the apple, as opposed to creating something that, like, you know, you see people that just keep evolving, and you know, even if it's like what, you know, a coach is offering for a program. Like, there's a part of me like, I love this program, and then I look backwards over the last few years. I've created programs, taught them, and like that feels obsolete. I've created a new program that's replaced that one now, and here's what I see in it. Like, and to me, that's super exciting. If I focus too much on that while I'm creating it, like, it sucks because like, man, this is like, there's a lot to it. But at the same time, if I'm enjoying the process, like, what does it matter what I'm doing if there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of outcome and there's a lot of creation that is actually concrete and doing something and supporting people? That the idea of building something and letting the machine run is it's kind of an outdated concept and paradigm. And whenever we're trying to do that, it creates a real ceiling for us. Um, and so my hopes for you is that part of this excitement that can start to work through you is that you're creating things that feel absolutely perfect right now, and that you're not attached to being the cash cow that you're going to ride off into the sunset, but even the idea of retirement now, it's like, it looks like, what happened to people when they would retire? A lot of depression, a lot of early death, a lot of like all those things. But the people that, like, of the people I know that are the inspirational people, that, like, I have a lot of friends that are in their well into their 70s, and the people that are living an inspired life still are still working, because they're still creating, they're still discovering, they're still playing with new ideas, they're seeing themselves from a different place in a different stage in life, and they're still in self-discovery well into their 70s,
Yeah.
because they're changing, and that's what keeps them inspired. And I see a lot of other people that are just like kind of trying to find a way to retire and coast it out, and it's like, like I use that analogy a lot, where when a team gets way ahead and they're just being super aggressive and they're killing it, and then they're like, okay, now there's only a quarter of the game left, let's just ride it out, let's back
Mhm.
off now, let's start playing defense. And it's like, then it gets like, all of a sudden the game starts to close in and it starts to get closer, and they may squeak by, but it's such a faulty technique, I think, to like, if you're killing it, keep killing it. like that's that's what's exciting, not like, oh my god, we're gonna win, so let's coast it out now. Don't be aggressive, don't be assertive, don't go for it. And it's like, I think it's a philosophy for in sports that gets sideways, and I think it's a philosophy in life that gets sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to be someone in that situation. I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of a long down the road fear of, I don't want to get, and actually I don't really see myself doing that. I mean, I'm not really, I like hanging out and just kicking
Mhm.
back, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm not someone that can just have nothing going
Yeah.
on. I,
Yeah.
I mean, it would drive me insane, I
Yeah.
think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
And so, as you're planning like your next step or allowing it to show up, I think there's two questions you keep asking yourself. One is, what do I want to do? And then the other question you're asking yourself is, what does this look like future oriented? And I think that second question is derailing you a lot,
mhm,
because it doesn't matter. Um, like, what do I want to do, and how is that going to serve right now, and how does that match me right now? And of course, it's not like doing stuff that's dead ending, but stuff that's growth oriented, stuff that's like, oh, this really feeds me, I'm really excited about this. And so, it's like a non-attachment to it, like, this is what excites me now. And you see people turn over their jobs like every 2 years now, because they're looking for something, and a lot of them, like, I'm not happy again. But this is like, well, this has been a blast, like, I can feel like I've completed through it, I'm going to either sell it, or I'm going to let somebody else run it, and I'm going to start sparking myself in another arena or another level of this, or whatever. But the idea of destination, like, the destination is how we feel while we're doing it, to me. And the idea of arriving somewhere versus operating from somewhere is, that's where, to me, that's the key in enjoying life.
right. Yeah, I'm trying to kind of detach thinking about things from purely the money side of it. I mean,
Yeah.
like I've mentioned, I mean, I guess I could theoretically just tell the school, hey, you know what? I'm just severing ties completely. Like, see you later.
Yeah.
And then I'm just on my own. Like, there's nothing. Like, there wouldn't be much income.
Mhm.
That would be a scary situation.
Yeah.
Um, and like you talked about, I sometimes my mind goes from it's either this
Mhm.
or I'm living on the street or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus there's probably layers in between that.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to my brother-in-law or father-in-law at all about any of that yet.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I'm just trying to kind of lay low a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And I think it's okay to milk it along as you're letting your spark ignite somewhere else too.
yeah,
Like, let it support you. Like, you put in your time and you're still doing it. Like, they're benefiting from it. Um, and I think something really important is looking at the position that your brother-in-law and your father-in-law are in. They don't have a win either.
mm,
Like, there's a reason that they're trying to be somewhere else. Like, they built a machine that they don't necessarily want to be responsible for, and they're trapped in.
Yeah.
and it's so clunky and clumsy, and there's just there's never a real win in it, even though it's massively successful. And so like the whole idea of that traveling light, of not creating a machine that you're stuck in, um, but creating something that really, that you can really thrive in, um, and also being willing to see what's next, to engaging in the next level of thriving, and what's exciting me,
Mhm.
because they like, like you can make, uh, like like the idea of profit and suffering, like you can make a ton of money very quickly and just keep moving on, and like accept the money and not have to stay in it, like building a business and cashing out of it. Like it was so fun to put it together, like I sold it, made a bunch of money, it's not my problem, they can go run it. I'm not interested in running a business. I'm interested in being the idea guy, that and taking the steps to launch it. And once it's launched, like somebody else can maintain it. Like I have no interest in that. That doesn't fire me up.
Yeah. I was going to bounce something off of you because I don't know how to really approach this.
Hmm.
Her family, my wife's family, is when it comes to money,
Hmm.
they've got, and I do this at times. I think all again, this is one of those things that we all do on some level. It's more
Yeah.
obvious and funny with certain people.
Yeah.
Um, so my father-in-law right now, I mean, he's done well with this business.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not hurting for anything.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they're on this world tour right now,
Mhm.
visiting all these places. I mean, he's fine.
Yeah.
And
Other
over
than the fact that he owns a successful business.
right,
Right. That's probably his biggest liability in his life.
it is. It's kind of all consuming for him.
Yeah.
But he's off on this really expensive thing that he's doing, and I'll bring up this. I'm bringing this example up so you understand him a little bit, like
Sure.
kind of his fights that he has in his head.
Yeah.
We had a family over Thanksgiving, like once
Mhm.
or twice a year. We kind of have a family business get
Mhm.
together, and it's
Yeah.
usually a little trip somewhere that we'll
Mhm.
do, and then it's a write off because we spend an hour, as a
Right.
family talking about business related stuff.
Sure.
So he was at the time, I think he was in Italy or something over
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. And this was
Yeah.
going on, and we were up in Santa Barbara. We rented a house up there.
Hmm.
So we're in the house, and we call him up. We're having all kinds of problems trying to get on Skype and
Hmm.
this and that. And at one point, he made the comment, um, or my brother-in-law, Chad,
Hmm.
he's like, Dad, why don't you just call a regular line and we'll just patch you in here? And his comment was, do you know how expensive it would be to call in from Italy? And then my other brother-in-law that was calling in from back east, he goes, Dad, you're on a world tour right now, and you've spent who knows how much money on this thing you're doing, and
Yeah.
you're worried about a few bucks to call in from Italy for an hour.
Right.
And there was this silence for a few seconds, and everyone kind of laughed. My father-in-law kind of laughed, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. It was like this realization of, it's like you just spent who knows how much on this thing,
Yeah.
and you can't spend the 20 bucks or whatever to call from Italy for an hour on something you think is like the most important thing in the world as a family. But it just
Yeah.
the juxtaposition of those two things
Yeah.
was really telling and kind of awkward and
Yeah.
funny at the same time. And so he's got this really weird thing with money
Hmm.
where his family's pretty screwed up, like on
Yeah.
his side of the family. His brother is just a disaster. I won't go into that, but just like a total train wreck. His whole
Yeah.
life has been a train wreck.
Yeah. Stability is super important to him
Right.
for that reason,
And
right?
he's been uh like a lot of the money that he makes comes from owning the properties that the school is on. And
Okay.
so he leases it back to himself
Hmm.
essentially. That's
Yeah.
where a lot of his money comes from.
Hmm.
And however, he doesn't own one of the school properties that went
Okay.
to his brother and his his two other half siblings,
Right.
and they're doing pretty well now by owning that property and the
Yeah,
income
just the rent.
and
Yeah.
the lease payments. But he looks at them as just total screw ups, and they are. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very, very, very dysfunctional on their side.
Yeah.
He's like the only normal person in his family.
Mhm.
And so from the time he's been really young and the way his parents like raised them and spoiled the other kids, he was the oldest, the way the
Yeah.
others were spoiled,
Mhm.
he has this mindset that everyone must be just spoiled and obnoxious, and
Right.
he treats us at times for no reason, for no good reason,
Mhm.
as though we're his brother or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it drives everyone insane.
Mhm.
I mean, he'll, well, I don't want you guys, if I ever gave you something, I don't want you guys to, turn into psychos and be
Yeah, he has this
crazy.
huge fear that if you're not suffering in a purpose, that you're gonna be a mess up.
Exactly. And so it impacts everything. Like it's
Mhm.
really awkward a lot of
Yeah.
times because we're like the polar opposites from his family.
Yeah.
Like all of them, like all of his
Yeah.
kids work hard or have, pretty good families. I mean, there's
Mm.
problems and all that, but for the most part, I mean, it couldn't be 180 degrees difference between
Yeah.
what he looks at his family as and how his own kids have turned out.
Mhm.
But he doesn't treat his kids that way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like he's mean to anyone, but from a money standpoint, he looks at everyone from the lens that they're, 2 seconds away from
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah.
schizophrenic and nuts and just
Yeah.
destroying
Right.
their lives or something, which isn't the case.
He really feels that the reason that they're okay is because he's operating from that mindset. Like he sees that as the cause and effect. And so if he
Right.
stops doing that, they'll probably go sideways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now I bring that up because part of me, and I've talked to Darcy's oldest brother before. This isn't Chad; it's the oldest of the siblings, so I'm probably the closest with.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is a little bit of a handcuff for me,
Yeah, absolutely.
and also I'm trying to articulate it. Basically, at some point, in theory, it's
Mm-hmm.
all, I mean, kind of theoretical, but in theory, once David passes on,
Mm-hmm.
his wife passes on, in theory, his assets in the school would be split between the five siblings,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
theory. But there's times where he'll still throw out, if I even get the slightest inkling that you guys only want money out of any of this, I'm just going to give the whole school to charity.
Yeah.
Like, he
Yeah.
throws that out all the time, and
Yeah. So
everyone's just
deep in
like,
fear that you guys will become another part of his family.
right.
Yeah.
And so psychologically, it kind of messes with me
Mm-hmm.
because um, I'm not all about money. It
Mm-hmm.
stresses me out, but I'm not
Right.
all about money at all. Uh, but the idea that at some point there could be some kind, whether it's income from the properties or
Sure.
something,
Yeah.
there's that. It's sort of over here, like that's
Mm-hmm.
a possibility maybe. But then the way he talks about it, it makes you kind of almost fearful, like, oh, you know what, he's just going to give the whole thing to charity.
Yeah.
And so I'm always kind of in this weird limbo, and his whole family, no one wants to really outright come out to him and just say, Dad, stop
Mm-hmm.
doing that. Like, we're not your brother. Like,
Yeah.
don't stop,
Yeah.
just stop that. But no one does that. Everyone's too scared to like confront him about that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like a neurosis in him,
Right.
like such a fear that he can't get logical about it. Um,
And so from a money standpoint, I actually brought this up to Chad. He didn't, I could tell it was uncomfortable for him to even go
yeah,
into
he
it.
wants to just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward.
It was like a year ago. I asked him point blank, I said, so, we've never really talked about retirement at
Yeah.
all. I mean, we never talked about anything like that. Eh, But what is your plan? So I just point blank asked him. I was like,
Yeah.
what are you assuming
Yeah.
is going to happen in your own life? Like, what
Yeah.
are you thinking is going to happen? Do you think anything will be
I try
passed
not to
on?
think.
Is it all going to go to charity? Is it like, and he's like, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he totally dodged it. Like, it was
Yeah.
so awkward.
Yeah.
But I mean, it made sense actually in the moment to talk, to bring it up. At least it wasn't a weird
Right.
like, out of the blue.
Sure.
Um, but part of me, I'd like to think that there would be something out of this, like this
Hmm.
business he's built, something would flow out. And considering I've put in, I mean, literally blood, sweat, and tears for
Yeah.
17 years of my
Yeah.
own life into dealing with all this. It's not like I'm
Right.
a total outsider that's just saying, I want some. I mean, I'm really invested and put a ton
Hmm.
of time into this. Um, it'd be nice to have something come out of
Hmm.
this at some point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, mentally, as soon as I even start thinking maybe there'd be some way, something will happen at some point, I immediately kind of check myself and just go, no, you need to be completely independent of this because you have
Yeah.
no idea what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Don't count on it. And
Right.
like he's going to take care of his daughter. He's going to take care of your wife.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just when I look at what I want to do with my life,
Hmm.
if I'm 100% purely just looking at money and
Yeah.
thinking, um, I've got to make money to survive.
Hmm.
I need to have enough money, to retire at some point.
Yeah.
I have all these thoughts. Part of me thinks, well, it'd be nice to know for a fact. I mean, obviously the business could just collapse someday. I mean, but at
Yeah.
least
But the
in
land
the
itself is worth like, I mean, the land itself is an asset that, like, even if the school closed, the land is so valuable that there's so much asset there. Like that's. I mean, real estate's real estate.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, that's been him and my father-in-law and his dad.
Hmm.
That was kind of their thing was let's
Yeah.
buy the land that all these are on. So I mean, from that standpoint, they've done well. Um, part of part of my thinking is, well, if there was something to be had there at some
Mhm.
point,
Yeah.
20 years down the road, I
Mhm.
have absolutely no idea. Just thinking that there would actually be something at the end of the
Mhm.
rainbow here, would that affect what decisions I make now?
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, could I do something that maybe doesn't make as much money, but I'm happier doing
Yeah.
because I know that there is something else down the road
Yeah.
that'll help cover up maybe not making as much money now.
Hmm.
Um, but no one has those conversations with them.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
as nice as it would be to think that way, because that
Mhm.
would shift how I possibly what I
Yeah.
do a little bit,
For
maybe.
sure.
Um, maybe I do something that just I don't need to make as much as I'm
Hmm.
thinking
Yeah.
because there could be something down the road. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying with
Yeah.
this.
Absolutely. And even
I'm
if
just
it's a dividend, like there's a monthly payout, that there's a trust fund that shows up, like that feels very much like I can't imagine it being anything other than that. Like it just, um, and so that you're familiar with the term golden handcuffs, right? Where it's, I mean, that's really the situation, right? And so, when I look at it, like it could easily look like, um, and part of it, like, exactly what happened with Chad, that whole piece of like, we want, we love you and want to support you. And we also don't want you in the office because like, it feels like there's a disruption and that's not untrue, right? Like you're not happy there. And,
right.
and so what if you could be a part-time employee? Like you already have all the knowledge, all that expertise, all that. Like, what if you said, I love the school. Like I want to see a success. What I would love is for, like 15 or 20 hours a week or, whatever that looks like, 12 hours a week. I want to be involved in a project and really, give to the school. And I also want to start this new venture.
Mm,
And that way it still keeps you in a very clean way involved. You're once removed, you're not caught up in the turbulence, that you're still committed to the school, you're still giving, and you're demonstrating your own balance and security, that you're not off doing some crazy thing, that you're not going sideways, but you're also creating something that inspires you more.
Mhm.
How does that feel?
Yeah, I like that direction. Um, yeah, I haven't approached them about that. I think they're kind of going back to his mindset. He's the type of person that I'm talking about. Actually, both of them, my father-in-law and brother-in-law, they're both
Yeah.
this way. But I think my brother-in-law gets it from him. But my
Mhm.
father-in-law is just total workaholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like wake up super early in the morning. All he does is work. He goes home. All he does is work.
Yeah.
And Chad is, whether it's by nature or he's just learned I need to be that way or my dad's not going to trust me. He's the
Yeah.
same way.
He's so
And so
afraid
there's
to look. He doesn't want to look at anything else. If I just stay on the treadmill, everything's going to be okay.
right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's different, I've learned there's different kinds of people. I mean,
Mhm.
there's successful workaholics,
Mhm.
but then there's also successful people that aren't workaholics. They've
Yeah.
just been smarter about things
Yeah.
and they have other interests. And so they've set things up in a way where they have a life still. It's
Yeah.
not just 100% consuming.
Yeah.
Um, I am not the workaholic type in the way they are,
Yeah.
but that's how they perceive. If you aren't like them, and
Mhm.
I've been noticing this recently with people they've hired and how
Mhm.
they'll treat people that aren't the way
Yeah.
the way they are. If you're not putting in 100 hours a week,
Mhm.
you're not earning your keep.
Yeah.
They just have that mindset,
Yeah.
and but I would say most people aren't that way. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're more unique in that
Mhm.
sense,
Yeah.
but they hold everyone to their own same standard,
Yeah. Yeah. If you're
and that
not
just doesn't work.
suffering like I am, then it's dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is kind of, exactly. It is kind of a suffering thing. It's
Yeah.
like I've had to suffer through all this.
Mhm.
Therefore, if you're not doing that also, you haven't earned your keep, kind of
Yeah.
a thing. And that's just, I think completely the opposite. I'm
Yeah.
just opposite of that. I
Yeah.
feel like there's ways to work smarter and accomplish the same things.
Yeah.
And then I look at the people in the office, and I brought this up a few months ago in a meeting,
Mhm.
and people uncomfortably laughed at it
Mhm.
because I think they all realized it was totally true. And
Yeah.
I can't remember what the topic was, but somehow I said something like, you know, how many hours does anyone here actually work during the day? I mean,
Yeah.
real, like you're sitting here for 8 or 9 hours, whatever it is you're doing. How much time are you actually working as opposed to putting out a fire or just doing kind of just
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
And everyone sort of, it was a very uncomfortable, like, because I think that's very normal. Like most
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
are not working like just top notch, like all day
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. They're pacing
Nobody
themselves.
does that. It's just a container that you're put in because that's the
Yeah.
easiest employment container, like structure. Like
Mhm.
you have to be here for this time and you're going to
Yeah.
work during this time. People
Yeah.
don't work
I
that
think
way.
most 20-hour employees produce more than 40-hour employees,
Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah.
And the times where I've been in the office,
Mhm.
it's inevitable that you're just not, you can't, especially with the environment there, it's virtually impossible to be just working the whole time.
Yeah.
There's part of it, I would say most people have a few hours a day where
Mhm.
they can be really focused and get done what they need to get done.
Mhm.
Um, and then the rest of the time, maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but
Mhm.
I feel like there, even with myself, it changes by day also, which
Mhm.
is kind of why I like flexibility
Sure.
because I may not wake up in the morning
Mhm.
and feel 100% going after something.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 o'clock rolls around and my juices are flowing and I
Yeah.
just hammer stuff out.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing? If you look at just the normal employment setup that
Yeah.
most
In
people,
a 40-hour work week, it's not how it works. But like if you're self-employed, that's exactly how you would do it.
right? And I like that. I like
Yeah.
knowing that I don't work the same every single day.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for discipline. I mean, sometimes you
Sure.
have to do stuff you don't like, but at the same time, there's ebbs and flows that we
Hmm.
have. And if you
Yeah.
can learn to ride, I mean, it's like surfing or something. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can learn to ride the waves as they come,
Yeah.
if you can kind of line yourself up with how the waves are coming in,
Yeah.
um, you'll be more productive as opposed to there's no waves at all today, but I expect you to be sitting there all day long just on your surfboard doing nothing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're an employee. That's
Yeah.
and I think that's a lot of what happens. There's not a
Absolutely.
lot of conscious
Absolutely.
thought behind when do you work best?
Yeah.
Well, geez, you know what? I have the hardest time in the world waking up in the morning, but I am just on top of things from
Hmm.
8 o'clock to midnight.
Yeah.
Well, why not let a person work that way?
Yeah.
If they truly work effectively that way, let them do that. But the
Yeah.
school, it's
Trust.
very old school. It's
Hmm.
just you're here from here to here. No one
Yeah.
works from home. You're not allowed to work. That's a bad thing working from home. It's a
Yeah.
bad thing working on your own time. Um, and so everyone's just kind of robotic about how they go about
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Yeah. And
Most
inefficient.
people, yeah, most people aren't very, yeah, exactly.
Burned out and inefficient.
Right. And
Yeah.
everyone hates their job for the most
Yeah.
part. And
Yeah.
it's no surprise why. I mean, it's not rocket science why people hate a lot of what they're doing. They may enjoy it actually if they're allowed to
Hmm.
do it in a way that fits them best as a
Yeah.
person.
Absolutely. Bring the joy into it and the connection with self and connect with others. And yeah, it's really fascinating. So if you were to move to a part-time capacity there, and open up stuff, when you look at your passions, is volleyball still one of your biggest passions? Is that, how would it feel to be doing something in that field, whether it's coaching club or creating a club, or doing uh, like skill videos or mindset videos, or a whole, like a combination of like focusing on a like preparing yourself for college, for like focusing on a specific niche in volleyball that um, that you could create videos for, and sell video courses, or even coach live, for the high school player that is getting ready for college. Like, what does that preparation look like to make that transformation mentally?
That's I have thought about that before. Right? Coaching my son's team right now, it's kind of
Mhm.
made me reevaluate how much do I like volleyball,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I really do like the sport. Coaching adds a different level. Having to be the leader has
Mhm.
been actually a little, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's been a good thing because
Mhm.
I've sort of had to step up. Like
Yeah,
it, like I might think in the past where I've been an assistant coach or something, like there's still another person above me that is ultimately responsible for it,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. It feels
But
there's
now
something that. Oh, are we still here? Hello, hello, hello. Russ. There we are. Hey.
Hey, sorry about that. My phone, everything shut off because it said it was overheating. I guess
Oh yeah, yeah.
everything turned off.
Sun coming through, huh?
Yeah,
No worries.
I'll try to keep out of the sun for a second. Um,
So you're talking about leadership, and when it cut out, you were just saying that even when you were an assistant coach, you had somebody over you, so it's a different feeling to be the ultimate authority in it.
yeah, so it's been a good thing.
Hmm.
I've found over the past year or so that when something is uncomfortable for me,
Hmm.
what that typically means is that there's some reason to push through it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if I feel like I shouldn't do something, I mean, pending, killing someone, like there's like a baseline of I just won't do it kind of things.
yeah,
Beyond that, if I feel uncomfortable, I've found more often than not that's my body trying to sabotage because there's
yeah,
probably some benefit from doing whatever it is.
yeah. The difference between feeling anxious about doing something versus feeling like this isn't in alignment. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
And so there's been some uncomfortableness with
Hmm.
coaching,
Yeah.
but I've looked at it as at the same time I'm thinking, well, it's uncomfortable because there's probably some good thing coming
Yeah.
from doing this. And so
Yeah.
that kind of motivates me to keep sort of pushing through it. When it comes to making videos and stuff like that, I mean, I would love to be able to do something like that
Mhm.
where taking all the stuff that I've been learning,
Yeah.
coupled with, whether it's sports or
Mhm.
something else.
Well, the combination of the mindset and the athletics and the
Exactly. And the technology, I love
mhm.
technology. Like my whole life, it's just something I've always really been into.
Right.
I've never had an avenue
Mhm.
to, I've never decided or had an avenue to apply it. Like I'll
Mhm.
look at people online that are content creators or whatever you want to call them, and
Yeah.
they're so into it, and they've been
Right.
successful doing this and that. I think, man, that would be so fun to be able to have a topic that
Mhm.
you're good at or you're getting good at, and then coupling that with the technology side of it,
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
videos or something like that, and then building something with that. It's like for me, that almost seems like kind of a dream job doing
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing. I just don't know what that would look like. Like it does cross my mind fairly often. I'm like, okay, of
Yeah.
all the things I could do, it's not like we're in a world now where you have to work at a factory. Like we're
Mhm.
all just sort of, I mean, the internet's opened up worlds. There's people doing things that you never would have done 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, I just don't know what that is or what that would look like or whether I can. Then I've got the doubts of, well, even if I picked some direction to go in,
Mhm.
I'll start having the doubts of, well, who are you to make money doing whatever that is? Or I,
Mhm.
I guess I don't really have a mentor that's done that
Mhm.
specifically,
Yeah.
really. And so I don't have anyone to look to that I could ask questions about specifically in that world,
Yeah.
which probably doesn't help anything. Not that you have to have that, but it's always nice having. I mean, talking to you is huge. Talking to Guy and
Mhm.
Elon was huge.
Sure.
Um, but there's other areas of my life where I don't have someone
Yeah.
specifically knows how to do what I'm doing or
Yeah.
or would want to do or something.
Yeah. And
Um,
you can seek out experts in specific fields too. Like, I mean, there's some great stuff there about how to create video courses, and even if you're taking a video course on how to create it, or if you're, I mean, there's people that's what they do. How
mhm,
to create a funnel, how to, and I can picture you really enjoying that, and recognizing that kind of work too is a process. It's like very
right,
few people create a funnel and it just works like the professionals do it, and then they're like, now we troubleshoot it. Like, okay, where's the traffic catching? Okay, well, I got them to this page, and now nobody's hitting this button, or this is where they fall off. What do I need to do to keep their present? Like, it becomes a puzzle as opposed to just something that's plug and play. Like the whole thing is a puzzle.
Yeah. And I like sorting through. I love the analytical side of
Yeah,
stuff like that. I just get so wrapped up in the what's the point of this, or
yeah.
which direction should I go, or um, I don't know. It just seems kind of like a pipe dream. Like, yeah, that would be cool, but I have no idea what to do as far as that goes or whatever. And so I just sort of dismiss it, but it
Mhm.
really does surface
Yeah,
several times a day. Like
yeah.
literally several times a day. There's something in me that's like, do it, do it.
Mhm,
I
yeah.
just don't know what the it is.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Brendan Burchard at all?
What's that?
Are you familiar with Brendan Burchard at all?
No.
So he has a program called Experts Academy that I went through, and it's really fantastic. And it's basically how to allow yourself to be an expert in whatever your niche is, and how to market it, whether it's through video courses, books, um, like live workshops, whatever. Um, and people can plug it in from whatever they choose. And it was really inspirational to me. It's really helped me a lot
Mm,
along my path. And he's like this really goofy guy that's just like he's a total dork, and he's just himself, and he just shows up, and he's like brilliant, but he's not just polished. I mean, he is, but not because he's polished. He's polished because he's so naturally. It's really refreshing, and he's super popular. Um, I'll send you a link to his stuff for Experts Academy,
yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
and I think that's the kind of thing that would create that spark, because as soon as you have a direction like that you get excited about and can go all in, I think it'll really be for you. And so, really getting in touch with what are my passions and how do I want to impact, because I really see this so clearly for you. The when you feel the most alive is when you are impacting whatever it is you're engaging in, or so
Mm,
you're doing something and it's moving something in a positive way. And where you're stuck now is it doesn't matter how much energy you put into it, it's not really going to move.
right.
And so if you're doing it 12 to 20 hours a week, it'd be, I mean, 20 is a lot, but more like maybe 30 at 20, and maybe slowly dialing it down a bit. Um, like it wouldn't matter that much, because that's just something you plug into and provide them a service so they can continue to do what they do, how they do it. And you can have a whole other side of your work life and your engagement and enjoyment life that does actually move things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more unsatisfying than putting energy into something that doesn't create an outcome.
Yeah. I mean, the other day, within the Mormon church,
Hmm.
there's a program called, it's been around for a little while, called Self-Reliance.
Hmm.
And it's a supplemental program that the
Hmm.
church has provided to people where
Right.
it's it's throughout the year, but there's 12-week courses that people take.
Hmm.
There's starting a business or finding a job, and
Hmm.
it's a really good course. I actually went through the starting and growing a business one just because I
Hmm.
wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't help me with what's interesting about the whole program is that it blends kind of the spiritual
Hmm.
with, I guess you could call it, the temporal stuff,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
money and having to get a job and working and
Hmm.
all that. But it blends the curriculum with scripture, and
Hmm.
it's actually really interesting in
Yeah.
that sense. And so the other day, I don't know if you know how the Mormon church is set up, but there's stakes with which
Okay.
are like larger geographical areas, and then there's
Okay.
wards within
Right.
stakes.
Gotcha.
Um, and people in the church, I mean, no one's paid, but
Hmm.
you're called to do certain things. You don't have to
Hmm.
accept it, but you can be
Right.
called to help with,
Hmm.
primary or Sunday school or something,
Sure.
or maybe you're called as a bishop, which would be a
Hmm.
lot bigger responsibility and stuff.
Hmm.
But they asked me to help out with this self-reliance course for the stake,
Awesome.
which was kind of cool because at first I was hesitant. I was kind of like, And they said, well, why don't you take one of the courses to see what it's like?
Yeah.
And so I did. And it didn't help with the business side of things because it's
Mhm.
kind of geared towards someone who knows nothing. And so
Right.
that part was sort of kind of boring, didn't really do anything for
Yeah.
me.
And it makes you an instant expert.
Exactly. That's kind of where I was going with this a little
Yeah.
bit, is as I was in there, spiritually, I mean, it gets you reading some scriptures
Mhm.
more. And so I had a spiritual boost being part
Right.
of it, which was
Right.
nice. But to your point that you just said, I was in there and I felt like a genius
Yeah.
because they're small groups, but the people that were in there, for the most part, not everyone,
Mhm.
knew nothing. Like
Yeah.
every single thing that I said was like a revelation. It was
Yeah.
like,
They weren't the elite. You were the elite.
exactly. It felt good. Not in a, like, hey, look at me. It was just kind of,
Hmm.
I was helping them. It was
Yeah.
like, wow, you know what? Maybe I do know a few things.
And you
And
were moving their needle.
exactly. And it felt wonderful.
Yeah.
And so the other day, just kind of there, we had a meeting on Sunday
Mhm.
evening with, it was just kind of a council of people in the
Mhm.
stake that are involved with the self-reliance program. And it's kind of a new program, and the church has allowed each stake to kind
Mhm.
of mold it to however they feel their people would benefit from it.
Right.
And as I was sitting there, I kind of had this impression that we're approaching this program the wrong way. It just
Interesting.
kind of hit me. I didn't say
Yeah.
anything at the time to them.
Hmm.
And so the next day, I just kind of got lost in
Hmm.
thinking about this. Like I
Yeah.
woke up, it was so weird. I've had a hard time sleeping even.
That's called excitement, Russ.
Yeah, it is. I was excited.
It may be something you haven't experienced in a while, so it's hard to put words to it. But
And so I woke up and I went into my office, and I mean, I could have been working on a million things, trying to
Mhm.
start a business, but
Yeah,
I didn't. I had no desire to do any of that.
yeah,
All I thought was, I've had all these impressions from this
mhm,
meeting we had, and having gone through the course
yeah,
about how to improve it and how to present it to them in a way I think would actually help the stake
yeah,
approach this differently.
yeah,
Because the biggest misconception of this program is that it's
mm,
only for, people that are out of, down on their luck, and they're
yeah,
not educated and their lives are messed up.
yeah,
And that's how people look at it. It's like to
yeah,
help the lowest person kind of a
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But as I went through the program, I was thinking, I'm not the lowest person there, but my presence there,
hmm.
I know for a fact, helped a couple other people.
Oh, absolutely.
And in the scriptures, it talks about, there's different places in the Bible and Book of Mormon and stuff where it talks about the idea of grafting.
Hmm.
Meaning, like plant grafting. You take
Yeah,
a plant from here and graft it onto another plant.
yeah,
And for some reason, that popped into my head that night when I was talking to this group.
hmm,
And so the next day, I put this little presentation together about how I thought this program could be implemented better.
hmm,
And I was thinking about grafting. And I
yeah,
thought this program isn't just for the person that's just, out of a job, has no
hmm,
education. This is just as important for someone who's maybe even super successful.
yeah,
Because if you can graft, maybe that person,
hmm,
spiritually isn't very humble. Maybe
hmm,
they don't ever serve anyone. Maybe
yeah,
they might need, I guess you could say, the spiritual service side of this
yeah,
program
yeah,
as much as, on the flip side, the person that financially needs help and they don't know
hmm,
how to do a job. Well, having a
yeah,
successful person in there
yeah,
is kind of like grafting that person into their life,
yeah.
and vice versa.
The mentoring and yeah,
And it was funny because I put this together and sent it over to the person that heads up this,
hmm,
you know, program.
sure.
And she wrote back and she's like, "This is amazing. Like, what the heck? Like, where'd this?" And I was thinking, okay, well, I was really excited about this, and I don't think it was for no reason.
No,
Because
no, this feels great.
now I'm not making any money from it. So that's what kind of pops into my head is I spent hours doing this because
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
felt like I needed to do it.
yeah, because
And
you
then
needed to move a needle.
exactly. So I totally understand. I mean, if I get into something,
Yeah.
if I can have something to really sink my teeth into,
Hmm.
it can be just it can become just all, what's the word? All consuming, I
Yeah.
guess, in
Yeah.
a good way. Like I am
Yeah.
just like a machine.
Yeah.
I just haven't had anything to sink my teeth into.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
And
also when it's so hard to keep a level of enthusiasm when whatever you do doesn't change things.
right.
And that to me, like this is like it's kind of like I can feel like I'm mind blowing, like in my own head, even like you have to engage in things that you impact,
Mm,
and when you're doing that, that's when you become alive.
yeah.
And your actions have to create change and transformation and movement. And if your actions don't, like it's literally like the world just drops on
Yeah. So what do I do with that? That's kind of my big question. Where do I, and even Guy and Elon, after working with me for a year
you.
and a half,
Yeah,
that was kind of their same thing. They just said you need to help people in some way, shape, or form, in
yeah,
some way. Like that's just kind of your thing.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I think everyone says I'm a good writer. People say
Hmm.
I have good analogies. I explain things well. My
Yeah,
wife says, "Why aren't you a teacher?" Like what?
yeah,
And so I have all this feedback, and I just look at it kind of like, well, maybe I am, like maybe, but what do I do with it? Like I
yeah,
just don't
yeah,
know where to direct anything.
yeah, yeah,
I love writing. I love explaining things. I think I'm
yeah,
good at it. Maybe better than the average person, but I
yeah,
just
yeah.
don't know what to explain,
Hmm.
where, how, when. Like I don't know. That's
Yeah. Well, engaging in this program like allows you to exercise that, and a lot of times when we first step into a new arena, we start to by giving, and then we start to see ways that we can monetize it, ways
yeah,
that we can expand, because you could teach the same thing even outside of the church. Like it's a universal need,
right,
um, or you could have some variation of it. I mean, it's interesting. Volleyball does feel a bit limited, but the psychology of it isn't. The mindset, like think about where you suffered the most in it, and where you could have used the most mentorship that wasn't part of what you were taught.
right,
And so there's not that it has to be in volleyball, but there's so much there that you've grown in that you can assist people in. And it's I think that the way that it's going to show up for you is by starting to do like getting involved in this program with the ward or with the state, like to whatever degree feels right to you, but being a change agent. And I think that that's really starting to see yourself as a change agent is absolutely huge because you
mhm,
are like that's what's created the challenges for you in your working environment. They're like, stop trying to be a change agent. Like that's
yeah,
not what we do here. And you're like, well, that's what I am, so I don't know how to stop that.
right,
And so where do you get to be a change agent? Where can you plug that in? Because a change agent that doesn't create change, like that's suffering. And so sure you can put in 15 hours a week and feed into their machine because it feeds you, as long as you have another place where you are a change agent and where you are moving needles and inspiring people.
yeah,
And so I think that you have this great situation right now where there is something that's paying your bills that's already in place, and like the opportunity to go get involved with this program with the church, and even if you're helping to just rewrite the program, if you're helping to remarket it, so to speak, because that's again like another place where you have clout, where you have expertise, where you have authority.
right,
And so even if you're not the one running everything, but you're getting involved in drawing other people in and reworking the image of it, uh, that's absolutely huge. How does that feel to you?
it feels good. Um, I guess part of me again is kind of thinking I sent her this presentation,
Yeah,
this whole thing, and in a way I sort of wipe
volunteer
my hands
yourself.
off. I'm just like,
Oh,
all right, I
okay.
did something, kind of.
Yeah,
There you go. Like do with it what you want.
Hmm.
maybe, I don't know, maybe I should follow up because she was presenting it to some higher up people the next
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And I am kind of curious what they thought. I mean, they could look at it and go, I don't know if I agree with them. I don't know. I mean,
And
she
it,
thought it
and
was
it,
great.
and it doesn't matter too, because what you really tapped into is, where do I get inspiration? And what does that feel like? And like that feeling, once we start to feel what that spark feels like running in our lives, nothing else is really acceptable.
Mhm.
And so now this starting to like, I can feel your brain starting to churn a little bit. So don't shut that down, because I can also feel this need to like, okay, well, let me cap this. Don't get too excited. Like let it churn. Like start spinning possibilities, seeing what shows up. Even if you're spending your spare time like messing around with creating videos, and even if it doesn't go anywhere marketable, like it's moved you to a new place. And I spent, like, when I started doing videos, um, I spent hours just in my room, set up with a camera and lights, just talking and redoing it, and it transformed from how I was showing up. Like the first ones were absolutely horrible, right? And they slowly got better, and I don't see that as a waste of time. Like that first video course, I ended up taking it down like 6 months later because I created another one, and that wasn't a waste of time. It was tuition, it was training, it was
Yeah.
putting my time in, and evolving myself internally so that I could be operating at the level I wanted to operate at. And each step of the way, I really enjoyed it, um, because I didn't get too attached to this being the product moving forward. It was, this is the stage I'm at, and I'm gonna go all in and see what I get. And then like, it's a whole piece of like outgrowing. And so we look back on it and go like, oh, compared to what I can do today, that looks horrible. And so I'm just gonna do it again now. Um,
Mhm.
and there's a certain point, like I have another video course that I'm probably gonna retire now, because I've recorded another one. But it also, like, that one's good though, but it's just a little bit different format. Um,
Right.
and so, but I'm still happy with that. Like when people buy that one, I feel good about it, and I feel like it represents me. But I couldn't say that about the first ones, because they were, like I felt like a kid,
Yeah.
even though it was
Do
8 years ago.
is this what you do full time at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So at what point for you did you get, how did you know at a certain point that this was what you were going to do, or you were able to financially, or whatever it is, like you at some point must have been some kind of, maybe
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it was nice because I started with a teacher salary, and so it wasn't as challenging to meet that. And I laugh about that, but at the same time, like I also started, like I went to teaching halftime one year, and started building my business. And so I had its ups and downs, and I ended up, popping back into sales a little bit here and there, and just making ends meet. And now, in the last, since I got the aligned living work, that's when things really took off for me,
uh,
and made it sustainable. And so I put quite a bit of work into it, and it also, it was all personal development. It was all me growing, and so it was beautiful. I'm sure there were times when it got a little bit leaner than I would have wanted it to, um, and then there's times when it just took off. And it's uh, but having other skill sets, having other things I could do, whether it was picking up a sales job here and there, or taking on a different sort of client than I normally would. There's always a way to create what I needed to create.
yeah.
Um, and so like it takes some creativity, but at the same time, you're in a very unique position where you have the job security and the flexibility, being connected with the owners, in a very intimate way, where I think they really would support you to bring your genius, 18 hours a week or whatever, and start and be able to create the stuff that really lights you up, until you need to keep diminishing that down to maybe you start to become a consultant for them, as opposed
Mhm.
to a regular hourly guy, or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I do have another call in 5 minutes
Yeah.
here. We're,
Yeah.
we're
Sorry.
running, but no, I'm really excited for you. I think that the transformation that's happening, like, and to not get too future oriented, but really enjoy what you're experiencing right now, and enjoy, like, my day feels different right now. I'm walking into experiences and I'm seeing myself different in them. I'm showing up differently. Like, this is exciting, and I'm going to step up to the next step, and then the next step, and it's going to create something different every step of the way. And as I engage in the world as a change agent and see that as an absolute must in my life, that nothing else is going to make me feel alive and fed, that's going to steer your thinking and start to open up new possibilities too, of where you put your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. Cool. So,
right.
what does your schedule look like next week?
Let's see. Are you still there?
Yep. Yep.
Let's see. Next week.
Do you want to do Friday again, or?
Yeah, Friday looks pretty good.
Okay. How does 9 a.m. work again?
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. And how's your daughter doing, by the way? I meant to ask when we.
Good. She had another infusion. Her levels are up to, I think as of yesterday, it was 108,000, which is good. Like, it's good enough that they're feeling pretty good right now. She doesn't have to go in again for another month.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of a week by week, maybe month by month thing, but
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that she's stabilized again.
yeah.
That takes a lot of bandwidth too to stay present with all that.
It does.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all the stuff you're moving through too, man. It's like it's funny as I feel you talk. You're coming from internal now, and so I know we haven't been doing as much direct energy work, but we're I mean, it's all happening as we're doing it, and you're operating from in here now in that channel of authority, that channel of knowing, and it's shifting what's happening. It's shifting your human experience, which is pretty damn exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Russ. We'll talk to you in a week.
All right.
All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.